Hey YouTube, this is Wrestlemania Park Fan 62. We're just days away from WrestleMania 41. And the build for WrestleMania does not seem like WrestleMania. Now, for one, the Rumble was a lot later than it normally is, because normally the Rumble is in mid to late January, and then from there you have stuff like the Elimination Chamber, and then either another pay-per-view in there, and then WrestleMania, or you have, the Elimination Chamber, and then a few weeks later WrestleMania. The problem was you had the you had the Royal Rumble February 1st. And then 4 to 5 weeks later was the Elimination Chamber. And then from the Elimination Chamber to the to WrestleMania was 7 weeks. That is one of the longest times to not have a pay-per-view. And then in the summer, you're going to have essentially pay-per-views almost back to back to back. So 2 weeks later after WrestleMania is Backlash. And then almost a month later, you have Money in the Bank, supposedly. And then after that, supposedly, is Evolution. And after that, you have the Saudi show somewhere in there. And then you have Clash of Paris. And all of that. But the other main problem has been with the build to WrestleMania is certain stories they started just died off. Because it looks like one of the things they were going for was Bayley versus Roxanne Perez. And then essentially, I think it was either after the Elimination Chamber or slightly after. That just died out altogether. And then you had stuff like, who was going to be representing Raw for that title. So you had this complete mess of, first it was Rhea Ripley, and then Io Sky won it on a random Raw. And so then you had this constant back and forth stuff, and then Bianca was putting herself in that because she won the Elimination Chamber. So she's like, okay, who am I facing? So then it was this constant of, oh, it's going to be me. No, it's going to be me. It's going to be me. No. And then you had this stuff like, they just brought up the tag titles. And it was like, oh, and so then they had a gauntlet match on SmackDown last Friday, and the winner of that was Lyra and Bayley, who's now going to face Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez. When supposedly one of the rumors was it was going to be Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. And you had all this other stuff. And it really wasn't until over the last, let's say, 4 weeks to a month, or a couple of weeks to a month, where a lot of this really started to click. I will say certain things they have done has been interesting, such as the Cena heel turn, like that happened at the Elimination Chamber. And so that stuff with Cody Rhodes. And it really wasn't until they went to Europe and do those shows where we really got the explanation on why. But it mostly was like a one-sided thing, because from the time Cena turned heel to the time they went to Europe was 3 weeks. And then it essentially was the Raw for those weeks. It was Cena go out. He would cut a promo. Halfway through, Cody would cut a promo. And then it really wasn't until that last Raw in Europe where it got to be, they kind of clashed. And for the Intercontinental title, you had all this stuff between Braun Breaker, you had Penta, and then you added Finn and Dominic from the Judgment Day. And then you had all of that stuff going on. On the SmackDown side of things. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention too, I will say the only thing that has been somewhat interesting has been Gunther versus Jey Uso, because it really wasn't until the past couple of weeks where we have seen a serious Jey Uso, where he brought it, he talked about his mom being like, what are you going to do? And all of this stuff. Or the stuff between Punk and Rollins and Roman Reigns. And, people were like, what is this favor? And then Seth, a week or two ago, was like to Paul Heyman, oh, now you owe me a favor. And it's all this other stuff like that. On the SmackDown side of things, you weren't going to know what was going to happen with the U.S. title. And then all this other stuff. And I'm sorry, but the build for WrestleMania 41 has had its moments of, being good. But a lot of it has just been okay to piss poor. And I hope at WrestleMania can make all these weeks worthwhile. Because this is the biggest show of the year for WWE. The biggest problem is you're having a lot of women, for example, not having anything to do for WrestleMania. So you have most of the Raw roster. So you're having people like Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and all these other women, basically sit in the back and look at a TV screen of what's going on in the ring. And I just hope what comes out of it is worth the okay build. I will say the one that has gotten, the two actually that have gotten very personal over the last couple of weeks has been Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte. If you watch that segment where Tiffany got extremely personal versus Charlotte, and then all this other stuff that has happened, I just hope that they make it worthwhile. And they make it where, people are just like, okay, let's get this over with, type thing. I just don't know at this point, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I just hope this WrestleMania is as good as we hope it can be.